Well, good morning, everybody. Grace and peace to you from our Lord Jesus Christ and all the saints here in my spacious cubicle. Going to talk today about I had to do some real live network configuration this week. We've got some new servers that have come in. The server guys put them in the rack, and came time to cable them up. So let me share my screen. Actually, let me share a portion of that. Hang on a second. I'm just going to share this part for now. See what we see. All right. Hopefully you can, you can see it. So what we're looking at is the servers that they sent and the diagram that they sent, how they want them hooked up. So they said they would prefer them hooked up across two different switches. Yeah, okay, I get that. One switch goes down, they've got connection to the other. Well, actually, let me go through and tell you what these things are first. This Dell R240 here, that's a load balancer. And what it does is it takes requests for this server down here, the Dell 740X, and basically spans out the requests, puts them in order, and balances the load across this Dell 74X and a partner 74X that's going to be in another data center. Again, for redundancy. And they work in an active-active. So all of this you see here, this server and these storage arrays, and the load balancer, as a matter of fact, are all duplicated somewhere else. So these load balancers talk to each other and balance the load across this server and the one that's going to be in another data center across town, actually. So that's the load balancer. They want 4 network connections on this one, and the 2 that go in the first 2 ports are an LACP pair, and the second 2 are an LACP pair. Actually, I guess they're all 4 bonded. So we'll have to do that. I had to do that. We got to set up an LACP multi-link trunk. They call it on these switches. It's called a lag on my edge switches, but it's multi-link trunk on these. And it has to be spanned across these 2 switches. So multi-link trunk spanned. That'll make more sense later. And there's one other spanned multi-link trunk I had to set up, and that was for these 2 network connections, which go all the way down to this Dell Unity 380. Not exactly sure how this fits in there. I'm sorry, I'm not a server guy. You guys that are studying servers out there might know. Tell me what it's used for. Put it in the comments, and then we'll all know. So yeah, there's that guy. And this, well, actually, it just may be the controller for these 2 storage arrays, I guess, looking at it here. Anyway, it's got 2 network connections on it, and those need to also be a LACP pair. So also spanned across 2 switches. So that's what we got. That is what needs to be connected up. Now, how do we accomplish that? So as you can see here, sorry, there's some proprietary information up at the top I'm trying to hide from you guys. As you can see here, I've already labeled these top of rack switch in 6 and 7. So in this rack that these things are installed in, we do actually have these 2 switches. They are VSP 7254, I believe. I'm not sure. Big old mosquito just flew in here. I'm not actually sure the exact model numbers, but they're VSP switches. I guess they call it Fabric Engine now. I can't keep up with Extreme. They change their terms every year. VSP switches, which means they're legacy Avaya, which means the commands are pretty Cisco-ish. So a lot of the commands you see me issue on my switches, they're not Cisco commands, but these legacy Avaya switches, the commands are very much Cisco-ish, so you may recognize them. So let's go. Gonna get this out of the way. So let me stop sharing for just a second, make my face really big again. And let me do a little housekeeping here. And I will share my entire screen, which hopefully this will work out. Share. All right, yeah, you guys can see all that. Let me get Zoom out of the way so I don't see it. So here we go. We got my two switches here. Top rack switch 6 and switch 7. Let's go through and just look at the commands first. So over here, maybe I should just share this one real quick. It'll be easier for you to see. Hang on. I'm gonna stop sharing real quick. And let's share again. This time I'm just gonna share this because it'll be easier to see. That's the only reason. I'll do these one at a time. Okay, so if you remember, what I had to do was, well, first of all, what I got to do is make sure those ports are in the right VLAN. Now, luckily, they're not requiring any more than one VLAN. Every single device, including the ILOs, the data, the LACPs, they're all on the same VLAN. So to accomplish that on this particular switch, we just tell it this command, VLAN members 138. That's the VLAN number. And these are the ports that I want in there. Tell it I want those to be port members of that VLAN. So that's the command to just, as I have always called it, untagging the VLAN, untagging the ports in the VLAN. When I say untagging, it's just that we're telling the switch that the device that's on that port doesn't honor VLAN tagging, doesn't understand it. And we're telling it that's the VLAN we want it to be a part of. Actually, we're not even telling it to be untagged at this point. We're just saying this is the VLAN we want associated with this port. Okay, let's leave it at that. Okay, so we need to set up the multi-link trunk. So it's a very simple command, MLT, and then give it a number. The number is arbitrary. I picked 34 because it was associated with some number on that server. So I picked 34. So MLT 34, then I gave it a name so I would know what MLT 34 was for. It's for that Dell R240. And then we have to assign, since we want to use LACP, we're going to set up LACP and assign the LACP key. Again, an arbitrary number. I just use the same number as the MLT interface because we're actually setting up an interface here, multi-link trunk interface. So the LACP key I want it to use is just 34. That's the key. And then we enable the LACP. So the other thing, okay, here's a question I'm going to ask you guys, is the other thing, at least you extreme guys out there, and I know there's a couple of you out there. In the old days when I would set up an LACP interface for like servers, I would always have to define that LACP as static. I cannot find the way to do it on these VSPs switches. So if anybody out there that's versant in Extreme and knows how to set up a static multi-link trunk or static LACP on a multi-link trunk, let me know. Or is that just the way to define the key like that? So yeah, let me know in the comments if you know how to make sure that this LACP is going to be static. And you can also correct me on the terminology. Again, self-taught. Okay, then we enable LACP on the interface. And then lastly, we tell it SMLT. Remember I said it has to be spanned across the two switches? Well, that's exactly what SMLT means. It means spanned MLT across two switches. Now there's some other commands you have to issue to set this all up, which were previously done by Extreme when they were first setting these switches up, that make these two switches act as part of a SMLT pair, spanned pair basically. So that's all I have to do really is just tell it, hey, this is going to be part of that SMLT. And I have to do that on both switches that I'm going to be setting up. So this is just the first switch. So we're done setting up the MLT interface, and we move on to the actual physical interfaces. And right here, remember I was talking about it needs to be untagged. Just 1 second. I'm getting a little dry. Need a little bit of water here. Much better. So remember I said that we don't need to worry about tagging on this VLAN. We want to tell it that the device that's going to be on these ports don't speak VLAN. Well, Extreme's got this cute command here to say, you know, hey, no 802.1q tagging, and they just call it .1q because we all know it's 801. So we're telling it don't encapsulate basically VLAN tagging on this port and on this port. I actually did that. There's a few more ports I had to set up. I actually did that on all the ports. So, okay. So I've already said I'm working with, right here, this command says I'm already working with interfaces 33 and 34, ports 33, 34. But when we tell it to turn off encapsulation, we have to specify each individual port. So did that. And then on both of these ports, I'm telling it, okay, here's the LACP key I want to use, which I defined right up here. Well, defined it right here. Sorry. You know what I mean. So we're telling it we're going to use that key. We're going to aggregate, telling it we're aggregating those two ports and going ahead and enable LACP on those two ports. And the last part is we're just turning off spanning tree on these two ports. We don't want we want them both active at the same time, so we don't want spanning tree to enact any mischief on those two ports. And of course, lastly, just like in Cisco, no shut. Got to do the no shutdown command because all ports are shut down by default. And lastly, I just go in there, always label your ports, alias them. So I go into, I said this is the Ethernet 0 interface of the Dell R240 and the Ethernet 2 interface of the Dell R240. So set that all up. And that's pretty much all the setup for that switch we need for the multi-link trunk. And same thing, I did it on the next switch. I chose the exact same ports to make it easy. And basically we just, you know, set it all up the same. Almost like a copy and paste, except for the labels. You know, interface 33 is a different Ethernet interface on the Dell R240. Okay, that was just for the load balancer. The next one I had to set up was for the Unity. And again, it's going to be almost exactly the same situation. We're just picking a different LACP key. We're working with different ports. Whoops, instead of 33 and 34, we're working with 35, 36. And yeah, it's basically, we do the same thing over. Then all you do is connect up the interfaces and bring them up. So there it all is. What does it actually look like on the switch? Let's go over to one of the switches, shall we? Actually, both of the switches. So let's get over here. I know you guys are all going to ask me. The name of this terminal emulation software is MOBA Xterm. I like it because it's tabbed. And you can, when you go to select what switches you want to open, you can select multiple switches, right click it and say, open all those at once, and it'll open all those tabs up. I like it, it's cool. So let's go up and find my configs. There's a bunch of it. I guess instead of using the mouse wheel, I'll use the mouse pointer. Let's go up, 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 up. Up, 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 up. I might tell you this all out of order. So basically, here's our VLAN 138. We're telling it what ports on the switch we want to be members of VLAN 138. And at this point, it could be tagged or untagged. We're just telling the switch, hey, we want that VLAN available at that port. Whether it's tagged or untagged is actually done with these commands up here. It's weird the way Extreme does it. So there's port configuration phase 1 and port configuration phase 2. You Cisco guys, do Cisco do it the same way? So, but this is where you're going to tell it whether it's there's tagging or no tagging on the port. So basically, if I say encapsulation.1q, VLANs are going to be tagged on that port. Any place I don't say that, like I was working with 33, 34, 35, 36, you can see there's just no interface command for those. That's basically all you tell it here is whether we're doing VLAN tagging or not. So that's how we set that all up. Now here's where the MLT commands come in, where you're telling it basically, yep, this is MLT 34. This is what the name is. MLT 37, the other one I set up, that's the name. And this is where you can also define whether that MLT is going to have tagged VLANs in it or not. Okay, here's the VLAN setup. We talked about that. Let's keep going. That's phony baloney IP address, by the way. Okay, and here's where you set up the MLT interface. All right, where you saw those commands were all right next to each other. You can see once they get applied to the config, they are all over the place. So now we come to the MLT interface setup. So here's where we've set up MLT 34. We've told it SMLT. We want it spanned. Here's the key. Go ahead and enable it. So I'm wondering if the static commands have to be in here somewhere to make this a static MLT, or again, if just defining the key alone makes it static. I'm only asking because on my old legacy and Terasys switches, when you set up this LACP interfaces, it could be dynamic or static. So here I've not seen a way to specify one way or the other. So, all right, we already went through port configuration phase 1. Here's port configuration phase phase 2. So this is where you set up the names, all that good stuff. And is this where we tell it? Yeah, I think this is where we tell it what MLT to make it a part of. So let's get down to my ports that I just set up. 33 and 34. There we go. So yeah, this is where you give it the name. Once you've given it the name, this is where it shows up. Let me put it that way. No shutdown. Here we go. LACP aggregation enable. LACP enable. So that's what sets it up on that port. And now, what other thing? Oh, SMLT. Let's see where SMLT gets set up. That's down here somewhere. Look at all the different things it can do. It's not our SMLT. ISIS, almighty ISIS. I'm looking for it. It's coming, I'm pretty sure. I missed it. All right, let's do it this way. Or did I miss it? Maybe I didn't. We'll keep hunting. We'll keep hunting. It's coming up. It's coming up. I missed it. All right, let's do it this way. Show run. Include SMLT. So yeah, okay. So I missed it. I always look for the wrong commands. So basically, the way you tell a switch, the commands I didn't show you is the way you define two switches to be in an SMLT pair is through a combination of these commands, and they'll be different on both switches. I think that's the base MAC for the switch, and that's the system ID that the SMLT uses to address the other switch. And that's, I believe, again, that's just an arbitrary number. Let's see, they kind of picked one, and they used the MAC address and then did 1 and 2. Let me see. Let's confirm that theory. And let's grab this command since I'm lazy. So we're going to go over to the other switch in the pair. See, it's got the same commands in it. Let's go down to the bottom. Yeah, so this is system ID, basically number 1 and number 2. And when they set it up, they basically just chose the, they set up the same base MAC? Sure looks like it. Yeah, like I said, I didn't set this part up, so I'll trust Extreme knew what they were doing. So anyway, and then the last thing, what was the last thing I had to do? I know I did one more thing. I didn't set up the time clock yet. Oh, just setting up, there was a couple extra ports that I set up. Let's see if I can find them up here. And I'll just show you on the config, the actual switch config. Are these them? Yeah, these are them. There's just a couple more ports that didn't need any kind of special setup. They just need to be untagged, just need to be ports available in that VLAN. It's not LACP or anything. So those were set up here. And I also did the no encapsulation .1Q command for these two ports so that they would just be whatever. This command doesn't need to be there. It's not hurting anything, but I should really take that out. So, and I will probably do that. So, okay, that's pretty much it. That's the config for setting up all those servers that we saw. Now I've got to do it one more time because we're setting these, we have, like I said, we've got these servers here in the data center, and then we've got some in a disaster recovery data center across town. Same set of servers, same set of commands on the same set of switches, basically. And that's what I'm working on. You can't see it. I'm scrolling up over here. That's basically what I'm working on over here. And I'm going to, since the exact same ports are open, it's going to be the exact same config. I'm just going to copy it and modify it and change names where I need to, and just copy and paste them into the other switches. So that's really nice when you can do that if you have to work with multiple switches. If you can use the same port numbers for similar things, like you got two servers that perform the same function and they're on two different switches, use the same ports, just makes it easy to remember. So anyhow, that's all I got for this week. Hope you found that informative and or entertaining. If you like what you saw, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, thumbs up, thumbs down, and keep those prayer requests coming. Let's go ahead and stop share so you can see my face real big again. So yeah, leave some comments if you got any ideas what I was asking about. So we'll see you guys all next week. God bless.